everybody, it's the Coach Moore Show. James Phillips here, joined by Coach Moore as always. Coach, we had a big win on Friday night up in Coleman against West Point. Let's just go right in, talk about that game. It got ugly quick, but we got to see some young guys play. So tell me what you think. First, just the way you guys started off, setting the tone, that sort of thing.
Well, we needed it. You know, we needed to be able to get ahead and pull some guys after the week before. I mean, it took a toll on us physically, the Central Clay game, and then going into the week, we went like 3 straight days of 99-degree weather.
Yeah.
And so all that takes a toll on your body. And, we're acclimated to it and that sort of thing, but like we really needed that. And then for the weather to cool down on the field, I was shocked at how it felt in the game. And I know it's weird to just talk about the weather, but it does matter. Like in a long season and our bye week was so early, I've been really worried about us holding up physically. And we had some guys out and some guys, so it was a good night to jump ahead and to play well early in the game. Obviously, Kevon Samuels early, was really big with the interception. He read it perfectly and took it back for 6. And then, like, as you said, James, not to be outdone, we score on our first play offensively too,
right,
with Caden's screen pass. And we kind of dressed that up differently than we've run it. And then he made a couple guys miss too. But the blocking was good on the perimeter, and we're continuing to get better. We had a couple holding calls, but those were a little bit questionable. We're getting better on the perimeter.
Right.
I'm seeing us develop with our receivers. We missed early in the season, missed Cole and Tyler Morrow, from last year, and the way that they blocked and how physical they were, and we're starting to develop that now with some younger guys. So we continue to distribute the ball. We, like I said, got out on them quick, and the first defense I think gave up like 90 yards, and 50 or so of those was on a big pass, a great throw by that kid.
Yeah.
And he was everything we thought he would be. I mean, he's a good player. And so anyway, but we did what we were supposed to do, and that's what's encouraging.
You didn't get a lot of carries for your starting backs. I think it was, what, 6?
6 total.
Yeah.
Yeah. I looked, and JC had 2 carries.
Yeah.
For 40 yards and a touchdown. I was like, okay, And but yeah, we ran 19 plays with our starters, scored 5 times, and
right.
So Parker was sharp. Parker was 6 for 6 with 3 touchdowns, and so I thought that was big for him. We continued to play Spencer. Spencer ran for a touchdown, which was big. And then Avrion had one he missed down the sideline.
Right.
And he'll hit those. We just got to keep working him in and finding those roles for him. And, we continue to use him in different ways. We ran a little hook and ladder with him. We haven't shown that. That was
right,
kind of a different wrinkle. And we're trying to just continue to be really versatile, And so every week when we go in and game plan, we draw up different stuff to accentuate their strengths and to try and, get kids touches because it helps you, the way that we're distributing the ball helps you. So anyway, with that all being said, again, we handled our business and we got a lot of kids into play.
Well, you mentioned Parker. Talk about his development some, because he really does, the last few weeks, seems to be a different player from game 1 to game 5 and 6.
Yeah, and that's what we thought he would do, and he had some low spots. I didn't think he played great against corner.
Right.
But he played really well against Coleman in game 1, which is kind of weird, but they hadn't seen a lot of that either. So a lot of it was people were really open, and he's continued to get better. And then I thought at Central Clay he made the plays he needed to make. He missed one big throw we mentioned, and then this past week he missed none. Like, we went heavy RPO game. 2 of the touchdowns were on RPOs. The one to Burt over the middle. We hit him, we read a linebacker and threw it behind him. And Parker's a really good decision maker. He does a good job with that. And then the next one was to Anthony Harris there after Shelter's big punt return. First play, we ran one and put it on him. And we want to continue to do those things and put the defense in dilemmas. And Parker does a good job with making those decisions. I think that's his game.
Right.
I think he's an intermediate passer. I think he's really accurate at times. And then he's going to continue to develop on his big ball. So yeah, I mean, I think he's coming along nicely, as are the other 2.
Right.
And we continue to use Caden as well to throw the ball. And so again, the versatility is kind of our trademark right now.
And you guys have protected the football really well, other than just a couple spots in the season.
Yeah, corner. I mean, 4 of the 6 turnovers on the year were corner. The other 2 came against Coleman.
Right.
And so other than that, we've been really sharp. We've not turned the ball over, lately. And I told the coaches that. They're like, don't say it, you'll jinx it. I said, guys, listen, man, we're working on it. I don't believe in all that stuff. We're protecting the ball because we work on it all the time.
Yeah.
And we made it personal after the corner game. You can't turn the ball over 4 times. That game didn't feel right, and it was 42-0. It probably should have been worse, and it would have been had we not had 2 fumbles inside the 10-yard line.
Right.
I mean, you just can't do that. So we've worked a lot with our defense, and our defense has gotten their hands on the football so much more this year. I think we scored 3 defensive touchdowns this year. All those things help. How do you score 40+ a game like we are right now? Well, we're getting short fields. We're getting defensive scores. Our special teams have been outstanding. And so that's been really big for us. And I want to mention, too, as far as special teams, Moises Sanchez kicked 3 in the end zone.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's a big development. You start kicking it with our defense and making teams go 80, that becomes really difficult. And then Preston continues to knock them through. And probably Moises would be our really long field goal guy. He's got a big leg.
Yeah, he can kick.
And at some point, we're going to run him out there and let him kick a long one, 45, 50-yarder, because he can make it.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting that we have all these tools, and I think that we're still not there. I mean, I think the ceiling's so much higher still for this football team to continue to play better.
Right.
We gave up I think it was 4th and 5. They ran a little double move. Kevon got beat, and he missed him. And I told you at halftime, I wish he'd have hit it.
Right, yeah.
Because I think, those are teaching points that I'm trying to find in the game to continue to make us better. And so and then Twig, Aubrey got beat on the sideline. That was a perfect ball, but he's got to get that ball out.
Yeah.
And so anyway, with that being said, again, you're trying to find those little moments in the game, and again, we're playing at a high level, but there's still more to do.
I hate to be a tattletale on them, but the radio guys in the booth, they were saying that you were being a little nitpicky at halftime.
I was. But, again, we're just trying to find those coachable moments. And, I say this too, I thought, speaking of coachable moments, our JV younger guys, went in and played well for the most part.
Right.
But we were coaching the heck out of those guys.
Yeah, you were.
And, we gave up the score, and we didn't want them to score again. And so we're able to see at that time, it's one thing to be go to a JV game and play on a Monday night with 100 people there. But it's another to play in front of a crowd on a Friday night in a pretty big environment, which was bigger than I expected. There were a lot of people at West Point.
Right, yeah.
Our fans traveled well. It's good for those kids to play. There were some bright spots in the game as far as those guys. I did not think our young guys played well offensively. We only had a few first downs, and I think we only had 3 possessions. And we tried to bleed the clock.
Right.
We wanted the game to get over quickly.
When you guys only played starters through the end of the first half.
Yeah,
Second
we
half
did.
wasn't
Yeah,
complete.
not a single snap. Right. Defense played a few guys, maybe for a possession.
Yeah.
But offensively, we had a penalty to start the first drive that put us behind the chains, and then we didn't do a very good job of clawing out, and we really never moved the ball consistently. Like I said, a few first downs. Spencer was okay.
Right.
He can be better. And then our young backs have got to continue to work to get better. And we had a little injury. Taylor's gonna be fine, but a little banged elbow, and that then threw an older guy back into the mix. So again, offensively, we've got to clean it up. But we wanted to play that like a JV game because we don't play tonight.
Right.
And so when we went to halftime, the guys, they all want to play the starters for a drive, and I said, no, we're done.
Yeah.
We throw a kid out here 42-0 and get him hurt. Can we live with that?
Right.
And so no, we ended up putting those young guys in and let them play and just live with it. I said they're going to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
Coach Butler, I know that this would be your 4th shutout, and that means something to you guys. And I told the older guys the same thing. I said they're probably going to score.
Right.
Nobody panic. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to let these guys play, and we're going to live with it.
Because they kept their ones in the entire time.
Oh yeah, and that's been the theme. But you know what? That's the first touchdown on our JV defense this year in varsity.
Right.
Dora didn't score one. Hayden wasn't able to score one, and there was another. Maybe corner. We put some young guys in at the end.
Yeah.
So that's good. They're getting in and competing, and that's what's important.
Now, was there any particular guys that stood out for you out of the JV group, since we don't get to mention their names?
Well,
very
I
often?
think the DBs were good. I thought Dwight Townsend came in and really played well. He had the ball was completed on him, but for the most part, he was in good coverage. One thing that we did was move Kentavious Catlin inside, and he played beside Luke and Stone and some of those guys. And I noticed our linebackers thought they did a good job. I thought Jackson, Padbury played okay.
Right.
At times, he made some negative plays, out of gap some, didn't grade real well. Brody and Rocco got in and played some D-line. And I saw Malachi Gilmore had a tackle for loss. He's a freshman.
Right.
He chased a play down backside and put him on the ground. That was really big. Luke Sparkman recovered the fumble that we had. That we did force a fumble inside the 10-yard line, so that was big. So again, there were a lot of kids that came in and got Lee Walker's a guy that plays a lot, especially JV, and a lot of special teams. He's getting some time on defense now.
Lee is one of those guys that just, from me being around at practice, he's never anything but full speed.
Always.
Like
He's a
every play in practice.
Great practice player. As far as like a look, I mean, that's what's helped us this year. When your JV is better, then your scout teams are better. And so we've seen team portions of practice where we're separate, O&D, it's helped us because we're getting a better look.
Right.
We're actually getting the real look that the defense is trying to show us or the other offense is trying to show us. And so that's really been helpful. I think that is what you see as you're at a place longer and you upgrade your talent, is that now you're able to sharpen yourselves at practice, even when you're not going good versus good. And so that's something that's kind of overlooked, but that's been a huge development this year.
Right. Well, now let's segue into this week's game. You guys will be hosting Lawrence County. Now, they're a team that lost to West Point, but you said that was kind of an anomaly. You don't know how that happened because they've got a lot more horses.
I think they do. I mean, I think, it'll be easy to see Friday. I mean, they'll roll out there with some guys now. They got a good quarterback. Last year, that was a kind of a game that we didn't play well in.
Right.
They stayed on the field too much. We didn't have very many snaps offensively. I think we scored on 4 of 7 possessions. We only had 7 total possessions in the game. Most of the time, we have 7 by halftime.
Right.
And so they tried to drain the clock and slow it down and huddled and got in the wishbone. And they may do that again. I don't know. I don't expect them to, but they may. They want to spread you out, RPO you, and read linebackers and put them in dilemmas. And they do a really good job. Coach Dutton's a good football coach, and they do a good job with it. And then they have some skill kids that are, probably second best behind Clay.
Right.
That we've seen this year.
Yeah.
Their skill's good. 2 receivers about 6'2", look good, can run, made big plays. One of them has 34 catches already, halfway through the season. They throw the ball a lot. So put it this way, they've thrown it twice as many times as we have so far.
Right.
They're going to throw it a good bit and spin it around and throw a lot of screens. They got a tight end, number 44, that's just a junior, is a good player. They got an inside linebacker, 6'3", 225, can play. And you'll see him. He'll pop when you see him. And got some linemen that can play. They take a tackle. It's interesting when they get in the wishbone and play him at fullback.
Right.
And he's about 260. And that's not fun to tackle.
Yeah.
And so they've got some weapons. And I don't know, man. I think that game was wild with West Point. West Point's up 20-0 in the first quarter. I don't know how. They played really well. And West Point's got a really good quarterback that was dealing it that night. You saw him throw a couple of good balls against us too. But if we don't play well, they'll come over here and stay in the ball game and have a chance to win it. So we're going to have to get out and start early. I fully expect us to. But again, they got some kids that can really hurt you.
Well, y'all haven't seen a team pass the ball a lot. I thought West Point would more than they did, actually, and they didn't. Taking it back to last year's game against Lawrence County, do you think maybe the defense this year being more aggressive, blitzing more, that could shake up the way it went down last year?
That was one of those games that, as I reflected on the season, I thought we caught too much. They were making 6, 7, 8 yards a carry early, so putting them in 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, somewhere in that range, and then ultimately converting on 3rd and short or whatever,
right,
and stayed on the field the whole game. Again, I think we only snapped it like 47 times. Normally you snap it between 60 and 70 times in a game. And it's not like we pulled off. Like, we played our guys. Mike had to score at the end to make it 28-7.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to play a full game over there last year. So I think, I think that we do need to be more aggressive. We need to take the action to them. Go get them some and get it in the 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11. And I think first down last year was a problem against them and the way they packed it in and ran the football every snap. But again, I think you're going to see a little different deal this year.
Yeah.
With them, a little bit more explosive, open it up a little more. Quarterback's a really good player, throws a good ball. We played a string of 3 quarterbacks in a row right here, starting with Clay and playing some guys that can spin it around.
Yeah.
And that always concerns you. So, again, I fully expect them to come out and throw it around. I think West Point, the reason they didn't is because we got up so much.
Right.
I know that sounds weird, but you also I don't think Coach wanted to give us a ball back a lot.
Right.
And stop that clock.
Yeah.
Because it could have gotten worse.
Because he made a couple of decisions early, like to go for it on 4th down early.
In his own territory.
And that didn't turn out very well. So maybe it was, let's just run the ball and
kind
get
of
out
cut
of
our
here.
losses here,
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And as I've mentioned, we don't ever want to embarrass people. We're trying to take care of people, and
Right.
and that's a new dynamic. It's a new dynamic now that we didn't have last year. Last year we weren't able to push leads out, and now we have been able to so far. But again, Lawrence County provides a whole different element with their athleticism.
Right. Lawrence County coming in. What do you guys have to do to get better? You said you're looking for teachable moments and that sort of thing. Where can you get better?
Well, I think reflecting on last year, as you mentioned, being able to stop them on 1st down, being able to, even West Point had some 1st downs that I wasn't crazy about, where they were now in 2nd and 4. And I talk a lot to our coaches and our players about first down. A lot of people are all on third down and red zone, which we talk about, but most of the time, third down conversions happen when first down was pretty good,
right.
and you get it into 3rd and 2. If it's 3rd and 10, that's a different animal, and for everybody, for every offense. And so, especially against our DBs too, we're pretty good. But with that all being said, I think we've got to get out and stop the run early, make them one-dimensional and have to throw the football, and then our DBs, hopefully can. Get their hands on the football some,
right.
And continue to create turnovers. It's been really good for us so far. And then offensively, I think it's about executing. I think if we're executing at a high level, we're pretty hard to stop. But we got to continue to. Parker's got to continue to develop all those packages and everything that we run, and all the different people taking snaps. We can't do that if they're not, taking care of the ball and managing the offense. And our kids have been able to do that. I think we got to continue to be multiple on offense and not get one-dimensional. We can line up and run the football and run power, but we've made an effort to really try and distribute the ball and to put people in. I would hate the game plan against us. I think that it would be difficult because so many people touch it. It's easier when you pretty well get in a formation. You know who's going to get the ball and that sort of thing. And so we've really tried to be multiple and self-scout and
right.
look at our tendencies. And I think that's going to be important this week. And also just being engaged. I've talked a lot about that. A lot of times, as a season like this rolls on and you've beaten some people bad, you got to stay engaged. You got to stay engaged in practice. And I expect it to get better. I mentioned the weather earlier. I expect that to help us.
Right.
As far as our mentality, it's 75 degrees today. Go out and have it just feels so much better. And,
it'll be a lot more fun at practice at 75.
There's no doubt. It's been a grind, man. It's been this season. I can't remember it like this ever.
Yeah.
To be October and it be 99 degrees or whatever. But it's going to help too. And I think it'll rejuvenate us a little bit.
Yeah.
This is the rut time.
Right.
Right here towards the end of the regular season, with obviously a big game next week, we've got to do a great job of understanding what's at stake this week.
Right.
With Lawrence County and the type of team that they have.
Along with, you've got a home game again, so it's good to be back home.
Yeah, for sure.
But as a part of that, we're going to be celebrating the 100 years of Viking football and the All-Century team that we put out in the Eagle a couple of weeks ago. But those guys are coming to the game and going to be recognized. How big is that for your players to see that tradition?
Well, we've talked about it with our kids. How great would it be to be recognized as part of that team?
Yeah.
And I've got some friends like Taylor Mosley that's on that team. Some kids that I've coached, Michael Creer and Russ Green, that are on those teams.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. I just think it's a special thing. Not every school does things like this. For Jonathan Jordan and Jonathan Allen and all of our people to get involved and make that happen, to meet Lenny Patrick and for him to sort of be the headliner.
Right.
It's just really cool.
Yeah.
That's where we try to create a sort of a new culture here, but at the same time incorporate that tradition in our culture.
Right.
You don't ever turn your back on things like that. Those people made Walker, Jasper, who it is.
Right.
And so I think it's important to remember those guys. And guys like Bubba Davis that's been around and just been so influential in our program. All that, one of the reasons that Lindsay and I are here is because of the tradition. When you look at a school, you look at the last however many years and you say, how many have they won? Is this a cycle of good players?
Right.
Or is this consistent? And at Jasper, it's consistent. Kids continue to roll through this program that are going to play at the next level, and it's just really big. It just means the world. We're actually going to organize it where at halftime, Lawrence County's band is going to play before the game, and so therefore at halftime we can recognize all those guys.
Right.
And I thought that was cool too, to be able to bring them out there, and they're going to eat in the Golden Viking room, and just share stories, and a couple of them ask if they could come in the locker room. How cool is that?
Yeah.
A couple play for Alabama
that
are wanting to come in our locker room and be around our kids, and we want to celebrate that, and we want our kids to understand what those guys did. That's not just some guy standing over there. That guy poured his blood, sweat, and tears into Walker football and made it what it is today.
Right.
And so I think you got to embrace tradition. You got to embrace the past, and you got to build on that legacy. And you got to make our kids understand, look, that could be you in 20 years. When we celebrate the whatever, 2019 team, whatever, you're the headliner now. And what's your record over your 4-year time here at Jasper? What does it look like? What legacy did you leave?
Right.
And I think it's important to build on those things. So that was a great deal that you guys did, putting it out there. And I know I've had so many comments and things, and it's just so well done.
Yeah.
So, and also what we're going to do, it's Toy Bowl night, Friday night. So those little guys are going to run out with us.
Okay.
They're at the stadium, and
You're gonna make sure your guys don't trample any.
well,
of
we're
them?
going side by side right here, so they'll have their own run through. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. You know, things like that are important. We want those kids. See, my son and a couple of them get to see it from the field,
Right.
being ball boys and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
you want them to see this big crowd and run out. And, you know, for the whole time they're in third grade or whatever, I want to be a Jasper Viking. You know?
Right.
And that's just big. That's what it's all about.
Well,
and so we've got a lot going on, a lot of good stuff.
You mentioned your son and some of the other ones that are ball boys. I pray for poor Kevin Pugh every week, and it's like he adds another kid almost every week.
There's about 10 of them down there.
Yeah.
This is a lot. Kevin's got, you know, the patience of Job, man. He's an awesome guy and does a lot. Kevin and Dale Green and some guys that, you know, George Lum and, of course, Joe Cordes and guys that we don't mention. It's amazing when you look at a football program and all of the pieces that go into it.
Right.
Like I call on you for
Right.
things, you know, and call on different dads and moms for things. And, you know, that's the thing about Jasper is that nobody says no.
Right.
You know, everybody wants to help, you know.
And even people like you mentioned, Dale and George, who don't have kids on the team anymore.
Right.
They still want to be around.
How cool
him.
is that? Kevin,
Yeah.
too. You know,
Yeah,
Kevin Ryan is now coaching, but, you know, he's done playing.
Yeah.
And Brady's been through already, you know, and they're still around. And Anna's around as our director of football ops, you know, and we just got so much going on, man. It's just, it's a blessing to be part of it. And we've seen our support staff grow so much, you know, from our athletic trainers, you know, with Bob White and Dr. Cuomo's on the sideline and just, you know, Andrew Welch and all the guys that are involved in that. It's just really big. And, you know, I always say this, but I've been at schools where I did all that.
Right.
Jonathan Jordan's job, my job, you know, helping with training and water and here
Getting people on the bus and off the bus.
that's a big part of it.
Yeah,
big
yeah.
part of it. So, you know, we've it's just been a blessing to be part of a program that does all that for you. And
Yeah.
now you can just coach football.
Right.
You know, you can just that because ultimately that's what I'm judged on is winning football games. And so, you know, now they allow me to do that. They take away any obstacle for me to do my job, and I'm blessed because of it.
Right. One thing I did want to bring up, you mentioned Bob and Dr. Cuomo. Injury-wise, we've had a pretty good season as far as
Yeah.
injuries go. Yeah, one guy went down the other night, offensive lineman back up,
Taylor Eads.
and then also Connor didn't play in the game
Right.
from the week before.
Right.
How do those guys look?
Well, both will be back. I think Taylor's got an MRI for precaution. There's no fracture in that elbow, and I think he hyperextended it. So, you know, Jackson Black will be back this week.
Right,
We
he was
need him bad. Connor will be back this week, and so we're starting to get healthy. You know, the you know, like I mentioned, the grind of playing so many in a row has caught up with us with nicks and bruises. We even had sickness, like Stan Deloach didn't make the trip. We
Right.
needed Stan, you
Right.
know. He's a play away, you know,
Yeah.
from playing a lot and on special teams and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, we were a little nicked up. Coach Matthews and I had our special team sheets, and we were marking them off. And,
Right.
you know, so we'll be happy to get back full force this week. You know, Jackson, we've really missed him. We're very thin on the offensive line. And it's nice having Luke Skelton back. Who's now playing in JV and is getting back into game shape. And then if we get Jackson back, then we're full go.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be completely full go this Friday. And, you know, even Trayvon Stewart's been nagged with a foot deal. And so there's stuff, but we've been very fortunate. And I attribute a lot of that to our weight room.
Right.
You know, a lot of the injury prevention stuff, you cannot prevent injuries totally. You know, football's a tough game and you're going to have them, but the way that we train, the way that our trainers manage injury and rehab and getting kids back to play, you've seen it firsthand with Stone and his shoulder and everything. I mean, we just do such a great job. It's like a college, the way that it's run, and that doesn't have a lot to do with me. It has to do with Philip Bailey and Bob White and all those guys that help that, and we train for that. You know, again, you can't prevent them all, but you can do everything you can to, you know, to try, you know, and to strengthen your bodies. I mean, the stronger you are, you know, less prone to injury you are. And that's why it's been so important to clean again, to get in there and power clean and hang clean and all that stuff. That's why it's been so important to partner stretch the way that we do and to, again, have our trainers that we have.
Well, and even with the heat that you've battled, you guys haven't had the cramps that you see a lot of times. You know?
Well, after the Coleman game, you know, but I promise you that bye week was a lot of running.
Right.
You know, you can run all you want to in the summer, but until you play a live football game, it's really hard to simulate that. And so after that moment, we didn't have any issues, and been very blessed because of it. You know, but at the same time, we hadn't played a ton of reps. You know, I was looking at this. It was interesting with Caden and JC and the way that Christian has managed those two guys. You're talking about two guys that have only played 30 snaps. That's the most they played this year, 30. Think about that. We got some kids that we play that play 120 snaps in a game.
Right.
Where they're playing both ways and every snap. The kid from Central Clay, the running back, he played every snap on offense, every snap, and special teams too. And we've got our kids playing 30, and that's a blessing. And we've got to use that. That's an advantage. And we've got to use those advantages in the game. And another thing I wanted to mention too, we talk about the turf a lot and how nice it looks and everything. Well, it's raining all day. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to stop this afternoon. That sucker will be as dry as a bone when we get out there.
Yeah.
And that's another advantage. And we've got to use all those things. And that's an administration that gets it. That's a community. A lot of people, why do you want to put turf down? Well, because it creates an advantage for us. Now we can go out and practice. It's not a soggy field. Right? And we can get a quality work in. So all those things we got to continue to use our resources and and our depth and all that kind of stuff to create an advantage for us in the game.
Right. Well, and just having better facilities make you feel better about yourself.
No doubt.
I've had being up in the PA box a couple of times during the JV. The officials that have been there, they commented on how different our stadium looked from last year to this year.
Oh my gosh, we turned on. There's a play that we had rigged up for Mortimer Jordan. And we'll go back from the previous season and say, well, how exactly did we run that? And we were looking at it last night, and I was like, it's awful. I mean, it was awful. I mean, we had fans on the sideline trying to dry the field.
Right.
In mud. Yeah. And so we're just blessed, man. I text Dr. Jackson this morning just to thank her for everything that she's done because she's been the point person.
Right.
I mean, she is. She's in it. She's in it for everybody. I mean, academics still guide our school, but our athletics have been put on the front porch, so to speak, to show what our school's all about, to kind of open the doors of our high school to see how many great things we have going on.
Right. Anything else you want to say just to the community to come out this week?
Well, I'll tell you this, the West Point game was amazing. I could not believe how many people made that trip. And I mentioned that in the show last week. Don't take it for granted. Don't take winning for granted, because we got to go and play well. And I looked up, and people are everywhere.
Yeah.
And we need to do that again. This 100-year team, you may not see some of these people ever again, And then the Toy Bowl kids, we wanted parents to come and experience that. And it's just going to be cool to see the little guys run out there with us and everything. So I hope people will come to the games. The first 2 or 3 home games have been amazing at how many people we've had there, and I hope we see it again.
Okay. All right, Coach. Well, good luck Friday night.
Thank you. Appreciate it, James.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to tune in next week when we will be previewing a huge game against Russellville that will be for the area championship or region championship. We'll see you guys next week.